Hey everyone, I'm Liz and today I'm going to show you how I made the lower half of a doll body out of crochet. This tutorial is part of a series where I show you how to make a complete crochet doll. In the first part, I showed you how to make the upper half of the body. If you missed that tutorial, click the link on the screen to find it because you'll need the upper half of the body to start your doll. Some other things you'll need for this tutorial are a crochet hook, I'll be using a size E, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and if you like, you could use a stitch marker or a bobby pin to keep track of the first stitch of your row. You'll also need some fiber fill, and of course you'll need yarn. All the yarns I'm using are Red Heart brand, but you can use any Aran or worsted weight yarn in any color you choose. And if you would like a written version of this doll, I've made a pattern available in my Ravelry store, which can be found in the description below, or you can click the link on the screen. I also used craft wire to make a wire skeleton for my doll. You don't need to make a skeleton for your doll, but if you want to make a doll with a neck, I highly recommend that you use something to reinforce the neck so that the head doesn't droop too much. You can find a link to my craft wire doll skeleton tutorial in the description below, or click the link at the end of the video. Before I start the lower half of the body, I'm going to make the arms and attach them to the doll's armholes. Since I'm still not finished using this end of the yarn to make the body, I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to use the opposite end to make the arms. I've started my doll's arms the same way as I started the head in part 1, with a magic circle with 6 stitches of single crochet. This is about as wide as I want my doll's hand to be, so I don't need to increase, but if you're making a larger doll, you could increase here the same way you increased the head to make the hands bigger. If you want to learn how to increase and decrease single crochet, you can find my tutorial by clicking the link on the screen or in the description below. Next, I'm just going to single crochet for a couple of rows until I get to where I want the wrist to go. I'm going to single crochet for about 2 more rows. First, I'm going to find that chain that counted as my first stitch in the row. I've already marked it with my bobby pin as the first stitch. So I'm going to pull up a loop in that stitch, and single crochet. And if you like, you could mark that as the first stitch using your stitch marker. And then I'm going to continue to single crochet for 2 rows. You could go on single crocheting for longer if you want, just go on until you get to where you want the wrist to go. Alright, I finished my 2 rows for the hand. Now I'm going to create the wrist. So to do that, I'm going to decrease 1 time per side per row until I get the width I want for the wrist. I've already done the first stitch of the row, so now I'm going to decrease the next 2 stitches together. Okay, so there's my first decrease. Then I'm going to single crochet 1 time normally in between my decreases. And then decrease 1 more time into the last 2 stitches of the row. I'm just going to decrease for 1 row, but you can go on for as many rows as you like. You don't have to do this if you want, you could just single crochet as normal for a more simple arm, but I like to do this just to shape the arm a little more realistically. Okay. Alright, I finished decreasing for the wrist. Now I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to increase 1 time per side per row until I get the width I want for the arm. I'm just going to go on for 1 row because that's how much I decreased in the last row, but you can do the reverse of what you did to decrease the wrist, or if you didn't decrease for the wrist, just skip this step and continue to single crochet as normal. Okay, now I'm done with my increases and I'm ready to create the forearm. To do that, I'm going to increase every few rows so that the arm gets bigger little by little. So I'm going to single crochet normally for 2 rows before I do my increases. I'm going to do 2 rows of single crochet between each row of increases for this part. Alright, I've finished with 2 rows of single crochet. Now in this next row, I'm going to increase just 1 time. Then I'm going to continue to single crochet until the end of the row. Now I'm going to do my 2 rows of regular single crochet before my next row of increase. So I've finished with 2 more rows. Now I'm going to do my 1 increase in this row again, but I'm going to offset my increases so that they're not all on the same side. So I'm going to single crochet for a few stitches, and then I'm going to do my increase here on the other side of the work. Then single crochet until the end of the row. Alright, so that was the last row of increase I'm going to do for the forearm, but you could continue if you want the arm to be wider or longer. Just keep following the pattern of 2 rows of regular single crochet and 1 row with 1 increase. Next I'm going to create the elbow, the same way that I made the wrist. I'm going to decrease 1 time per side per row and then increase 1 time per side per row. And just like with the wrist, you can do more than 1 row if you like, or you could just skip this step and do a row of regular single crochet for a more simple arm. Okay, I've finished my rows of decrease and increase for the elbow. And now I'm going to make the upper arm. I'm going to do this in the same way that I did the forearm. I'm going to do 2 rows of single crochet, and then I'm going to increase 1 time in the next row. I'm going to repeat this 2 more times again for the upper arm, but you can go on for as long as you like until your arm is wide enough. If you want a longer arm after you've already finished increasing the arm to the right width, you can just continue to add rows of single crochet until the arm is the right length. For this doll though, I don't need to add any more rows of single crochet. So now I need to end this arm. If you want, you could just slip stitch to the next stitch of the row and cut off your yarn if the arm is both long enough and wide enough, but for this doll, since I made the upper arm thicker than the armhole, I'm going to decrease for a row until the top of the arm is about the same width as the armhole. You don't have to do this if your doll's arms are already the same width as your doll's armholes. So I'm going to decrease 1 time per side for 1 row. If you like, you could decrease for more than 1 row, depending on the size of your doll. And finally, I'm going to slip stitch to the first stitch to end this row. Cut off a long tail of my yarn, and I'm going to use that tail to sew the arm to the armhole, but first I'm going to repeat the same thing to create a second arm. Okay, I finished making 2 arms. Now I'm going to add a bit of fiber fill to each arm. I'm going to use this little dowel stick to push the fill into the arms. I'm going to be careful not to overstuff the arms because I want to be able to slip that wire into the arms later. And I've already added the wire skeleton that I made to the body. If you want to make a skeleton for your doll, you can find the link to my wire skeleton tutorial in the description below. Next, I'm going to slip the arms over the wires and sew them to the armholes. Now the arms are sewn on, so now I'm just going to begin right where I left off at the back of the work. I had just finished making my doll's stomach and hips. Next I'm going to create the lower half of the doll. If you want the back of your doll to be flat, you could just single crochet as normal for a few rows before making your doll's legs, but if you want, you could do the same thing we did at the bust to create a more curvy look. So just like at the bust, I'm going to increase 3 times per side at the back of the doll. But if you want yours to be smaller, you could increase just 2 times per side or 1 time per side. For my doll, I'm going to increase 3 times per side. So first I'm going to increase this side at the back 3 times. Okay, now I'm going to single crochet until I get back to the back of the work, and I'm going to increase 3 more times on the other side. Okay, I've finished my next 3 increases at the back and I've gotten to the end of my row. So now I'm going to do 1 more row of the same thing. I'm going to increase the back 3 times at this side, then I'm going to single crochet until I get to the other side where I'm going to increase 3 more times. This is going to be my last row of increasing the back, but you can go on for as many rows as you like until you have a size you like. Alright, I finished increasing the back. Now to finish, I'm going to do the opposite and I'm going to decrease 3 times per side at the back of the body for 2 rows. You should do as many rows as you did to increase the back. Since I just did 2 rows of increase, I'm going to do 2 rows of decrease. So I'm going to decrease 3 times at the back of this side. And then I'm going to single crochet until I get to the other side. And now I'm going to decrease 3 more times at the back on this side. And then I'm going to do the same thing for one more row. And then if you want, you could do the same thing we did at the bust and fold in the middle to create a more realistic shape. Now that I've finished decreasing, I'm going to divide the row in half to make each of the legs. First, I'm going to make sure that my first stitch is at the very back middle of the work. If your first stitch drifted somewhere else, like mine did, go ahead and single crochet until you're at the very middle of the back. Okay, next I need to chain 1 for every 12 stitches I have left in my row. First, I'm going to count my stitches. I have 20 stitches left in my row, so I'm just going to chain 1. Then I'm going to divide the stitches I have left in half so I can find the number of stitches I need to skip to create my leg holes. Since I have 20 stitches in my row, I'm going to count, starting with the next stitch, 10 stitches. Alright, this is the 10th stitch. I'm going to skip all of these other stitches and I'm going to single crochet into this 10th stitch, but I'm going to pull the chain through the middle of my leg wires. Just like that. And single crochet into that stitch. And I'm going to mark that as the new first stitch of my row. And then I'm just going to single crochet until I get back to this first stitch of my row. If you had an odd number of stitches left, just round down to the next even number and divide your row in half, and then count out that many stitches instead. Then instead of doing a regular single crochet in this stitch after your skipped stitches, you would decrease this stitch and the next stitch together. That way you had an even number of stitches in your row. And when I get to that chain in the middle of the two legs, I'm going to work only into the back loop of the chain, and I'm going to leave that outer loop open so that I can work the next leg onto that outer loop. And if you like, you could also mark these two stitches on either side of the chain at the middle front and the middle back of the previous row, because when we come back to make the other leg later, these two stitches will count as a stitch each on the other side, and so will the outer loop of the chain in the middle. Okay, I finished with my first leg row. If you want, you could increase the size of the doll's legs by doing one increase at each side of the leg per row until the leg is the width you want, but I'm not going to do that for this doll. Next, I'm going to slim the thighs. I'm going to decrease every few rows so that the leg gets smaller little by little. If you prefer, you could just make basic straight legs by single crocheting until you have the length you want for the legs, but I'm going to shape the legs a bit. So to do that, I'm going to single crochet normally for 2 rows before I do my decrease. Alright, I finished 2 rows of single crochet. Now in this next row, I'm going to decrease just 1 time. It doesn't really matter where the decrease goes. I'm just going to put it at the front of the leg. And then I'm going to continue to single crochet until the end of the row. Now I'm going to do my 2 rows of regular single crochet before my next row of decrease, and that's going to be the last row of decrease I do for the upper leg. But you could continue if you want the leg to be thinner or longer. Just keep following the pattern of 2 rows of regular single crochet and 1 row with 1 decrease. If your doll's thighs are already thin enough, but you still want them to be longer, Just continue to add rows of single crochet until your doll's thighs reach the desired length. But I'm just going to end the thighs here, and I'm going to create the knees. So to widen the front of the knee, I'm going to increase twice at the front of the leg and decrease twice at the back of the leg, so that the front gets bigger while the back gets smaller, but the row stays the same size. You can go on for as many rows as you want. I'm just going to do this for 2 rows to bulge out the front of my doll's knees, so I'm going to single crochet until I get to the front of the work. Okay, and then I'm going to increase these 2 front stitches. Then I'm going to continue to single crochet until I get to the back, and then I'm going to decrease twice into these 4 back stitches. Alright, then I'm going to do that for 1 more row, but you can do as many rows as you like until the knee bulges out as far as you want it. Alright, I finished my second row of the knee. Now to finish the knee, I'm going to do the opposite of what I did in the previous rows, and I'm going to decrease 2 times at the front of the leg, while at the same time increasing at the back of the leg. And I'm going to do this for 2 rows, just like I did to start the knee, but you should do however many rows you did to start the knee. Alright, I've finished my last 2 rows of the knee. Now I'm going to add some fiber fill to the top of the leg. And if you want to make the calves even bigger than this, you could increase 2 times per row at the back of the leg until you have the width you want for the calves. I'm not going to do that for this doll. I'm going to slim the legs until I have the width I want for the ankle. To slim for the ankle, I'm going to do pretty much exactly what I did to slim for the thighs. I'm going to continue to single crochet as normal for 2 rows, and then I'm going to decrease 1 time for 1 row. And I'm going to repeat this twice to slim the leg. Alright, I've gotten to the end of 4 rows of single crochet and 2 rows of decrease. If you want to make the doll's legs even longer, you could continue to single crochet until the calf is the right length. I'm going to single crochet for 2 more rows. Alright, I finished with 2 more rows of single crochet. I'm going to create the feet next, but first I'm going to once again add a bit of fiber fill to the leg. Okay, next I'm going to increase the front of the ankle to create the foot. I'm going to increase 3 times at the back per row, and 3 times at the front per row, until the back of the foot is a good size for the heel. I'm going to do this for 2 rows, but you can go on for as many rows as you like. Alright, I've finished increasing the back to create the heel of the foot. Now I'm going to end the heel, but I still want to make the foot longer, so I'm going to decrease 3 times at the back of the foot and increase 3 times at the front of the foot until the foot is a good length. That way the back of the foot will get smaller while the front of the foot gets bigger. I'm going to go on increasing for 2 rows, but you can increase the foot for as long as you like. So I just finished my 2 rows of increasing the foot, and now it's a good length, so I'm going to end it. But first I'm going to put just a bit more fiber fill into the foot. Alright, I've added my fiber fill. Now I'm going to finish the foot. To do that, I'm going to continue to decrease 3 times per row at the back of the foot, but now I'm going to start to decrease 3 times per row at the front of the foot too. And I'm going to continue to do that until the hole is small enough to sew closed. So I'm going to go on decreasing for 2 more rows. So I've finished decreasing for 2 rows. Now I have 8 stitches left in my row at the bottom of the foot. Now I'm going to slip stitch the next stitch of my row to end my row. And I'm going to cut off a long tail of my yarn. And I'm going to use that tail to sew the hole closed. But first I'm going to add a bit more fiber fill to the bottom of the foot. Alright, I've finished sewing the bottom of the foot closed. Before I make the next leg, I'm going to make sure to finish stuffing the body of the doll. And now I'm going to make the other leg. I'm going to pull up a loop using the same color into one of these skipped stitches at the base of the hips. And make sure that you're working your stitches in the same direction as before from this side to this side. Then I'm going to chain 2. And that's going to count as my first stitch. Then I'm going to continue to single crochet into each of these stitches for 1 row, including these stitches that I marked earlier that I've already worked into, and into this chain at the middle. Alright, I've gotten to the middle, so I'm going to work into that first marked stitch. Then I'm going to work into this chain in the middle. And then I'm going to work into this last marked stitch. Now I'm just going to single crochet until I get back to the first stitch of the row. And now this leg should be the same number of stitches as the leg on the other side. Now I'm going to repeat what I did on the other side to create this other leg, starting by repeating 2 rows of regular single crochet and 1 row with a decrease to gradually slim the thigh, just like I did on this opposite leg. I'm going to make this leg just exactly the same way that I made the other leg. So I finished making the other leg, and now the lower half of my doll's body is complete. If you missed the first part of this tutorial, you can find it by clicking the link at the top of the screen. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give it a like or share it on social media. You can also find the written pattern in my Ravelry store. The link is in the description below. If you want to add hair to your doll, you could also check out my doll hair tutorials. The link will be at the end of the video, or again, look in the description. If you want to support me in making new videos, consider donating to my Patreon page. It's entirely optional, but if you do, you get some perks, like having access to my videos a week before they're posted here on YouTube. You can find more information about that in the description below. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!